Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by World Series of Fighting Featherweight Rick Glenn. Rick, how are you?
Doing good, just doing some stuff around the house. Done training for the day.
Rick, you got a fight coming up at World Series of Fighting 10 on June 21st. How's training been going for the fight?
Going good, been training hard. Just about ready to taper off and start cutting some weight.
Now, you're taking on Georgi Karakhanyan for the World Series of Fighting Featherweight title. What are your thoughts about him as an opponent?
Top opponent. He's a World Series Fighting champ. Well-rounded dude. I'm ready to go, though. I'm ready to take him on.
Right. Now, this fight's been a long time coming because you were supposed to fight him back in December of last year, but you withdrew from the fight. A lot of people said that the fight was canceled because you got injured, but then some people say it was because of personal reasons. So I'm just curious, what's the real story? Why didn't this fight take place?
No, I wasn't injured. We just had some family issues go on, and needed to spend some time with my sister, and so we made sure to do that.
I see. And now, without, Karakhanyan was supposed to be your opponent for World Series of Fighting 7. How deep into training were you for that fight before all the personal stuff happened and you were forced to withdraw? How much had you studied him, and how far into your camp were you when you had to pull out?
I actually was studying him, as soon as he got signed with the World Series.
Right.
And before my last fight, actually, I figured that we'd meet sometime down the road, since he got signed with them. And, so I was studying him, and I've always been training hard, so.
I see. Now, you mentioned that he was on your radar. You guys actually fought on World Series of Fighting 5. He fought Waylon Lowe, and you fought on that card as well. Is that something that you do with all the featherweights in World Series? Are you scoping them all out, or was it just Karakhanyan that caught your eye?
Yeah, they're top guys. I scope them out, I guess, just to see where they're at and what they're up to. And I saw his fight. He got I believe it was a choke, some kind of a guillotine choke on Waylon Lowe when he shot in. So.
Now, obviously, I'm going to assume that you saw the World Series of Fighting 7 fight between him and Lance Palmer. What did you think of that fight?
Yeah, I saw that. I was surprised Lance Palmer, with his striking, and that he was able to take him down as much as he did. But it was a good fight, and he got him with a choke too. So obviously, I'm going to be watching out for submissions.
And World Series of Fighting, they put this fight back together. It was supposed to happen once before, and now it's finally happening. Did they tell you when you pulled out of the fight that, hey, when you come back, you're number one contender, or was it kind of just a surprise to you? They kind of kept you in the dark, and then when they offered it, you're like, okay, well, I guess I am the number one guy if they offered me a title shot. So which one was it? Were they, they keeping you in the loop, saying when you return, you can have it?
No, they didn't really keep me in the loop like that, but I just expected that we would, since it was supposed to happen. No sense of fighting someone else if they wanted me to fight, for the belt in the first place. So,
Who did you think was going to win that fight between Karakhanyan and Palmer?
I wasn't really sure. I mean, I thought it could win either way, I guess.
Oh. Okay, I see. And without giving your game plan away or anything, but you prepared for him a little bit, and also you've been scoping him out since he signed with the World Series of Fighting. Has your game plan changed? I mean, obviously not giving anything away, but has the game plan remained the same since you first saw him till now?
Yeah, I think it's stayed the same. My training has just gotten harder, and I'm a lot stronger now, and I just worked on everything a lot, and I'm always getting better, especially at Rufus Sport, and working with all the great coaches. You just can't help but get better.
Karakhanyan right now is on a 9-fight win streak. Are you impressed with what he's done over the course of this win streak?
Yeah, I mean, he'd be some good guys. I'm blessed with the opportunity to fight him. I'm finally fighting on the big stage, so it feels good to have this opportunity to be fighting for the belt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I see. Now, probably the biggest name that you fought throughout your career is probably Ryan Roberts. You fought him back in 2011 to a draw. Where does Carcanian rank amongst the guys that you fought in the past? Is he right at the top? Is this a big step up in competition for you, do you feel like?
Yeah, I think he's at the top. I mean, it seems like, especially now in World Series, the next opponent is going to be better than the last, and that's just what I expected. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, Carcanian, he's on this great win streak, 9 fights in a row. What do you think that he's done to allow himself to go on this win streak? And also, of course, without giving away your game plan or anything, but what do you think his opponents haven't been able to do to derail this 9-fight win streak? What do you think when you look at what he's done?
I don't know. I mean, he seems like he's trying to mix things up and, get creative out there. He looks comfortable, and, that's how I like to fight too. But I'm I'm ready to bring it. So I'm not sure. Just ready to fight. So.
Right. I hear you. Now, this fight is going to air live on NBC Sports Network. It's the biggest stage you've ever been on. You're fighting in the co-main event. About this whole situation, when you look at this whole situation you're about to step into, what's the most exciting? Is it fighting for the title? Is it the card position? Is it the live TV that you're going to be fighting on? What's the cherry on top of the sundae for you for this fight?
I think just fighting on the co-main event spot is the biggest thing, and the opponent, of course, and the cherry on top, is the little bonus is the belt.
Okay, I see. And back when the UFC when they were doing 3 to 6 shows a year, back in the early 2000s, Vegas was the spot that they were doing all the shows in, and that was kind of like the mark that you had made it in the sport. If you're fighting there, that's like you've risen to the top in this sport. Now you're getting your opportunity to fight in Vegas. Does that mean something to you, getting the chance to fight in the fight capital of the world?
Yeah, heck yeah. It's actually my first time fighting in Vegas. And I've been there in the past, but it would be nice to fight there. And my wife has never been there. She's coming, so looking forward to having a good fight and having a good time afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Now, 12 straight fights, you haven't suffered a loss. You're 11-0-1 since starting your career 3-2. What's changed for you? Obviously, the biggest thing is you're training with a great group of guys at Rufus Sport. That's the main thing. But besides that, what's changed for you that's allowed you to go on this win streak?
Yeah, definitely the training, and after those couple losses, it was a huge wake up call at how much I hate losing, and how much I need to win. So it definitely helped fuel the fire.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm just curious, what's it like going with all these high level guys at Rufus Sport? I mean, you look around the gym and there's killers everywhere. I'm just curious, what's it like going with those guys on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, it's awesome. I get to beat them up every day. Yeah, so I'm in there just whooping up on all of them. Taking Ben Askren down at will. Showtime kicking Anthony Pettis.
Right.
So it's fun.
Right. And what's great about that is they're saying the same thing
awesome.
about you.
Yeah, it's definitely. I learn a lot from Anthony and Ben and those guys, and everyone's getting better, and they're always helping us with little things here and there, and yeah, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Just curious, who are your main sparring partners? Who are you mostly going in there with?
Anthony. Then there's some lighter guys. Sergio, he just fought, and he actually was back in the gym Monday, helping Dustin Ortiz out, another one of our teammates. So, everyone's real helpful, and there's a lot of up and comers there. We got a lot of good guys.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben will be back tomorrow. He just fought over in Singapore.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So he's back tomorrow.
Obviously, when we think of Rufus Sport, the main guy we think of is Duke Rufus, but besides him, who are the coaches there?
Scott Cushman is also one of the head striking coaches, and he's just, he's a mad scientist with the striking, just like Duke. And we got Daniel Wanderley. He came from Carlson Gracie Jr.'s gym in Chicago.
Right.
So he's been with us for a year. And a couple other black belt jiu-jitsu instructors. We got Ben and Max Askren, and they actually have some other wrestlers that will come in from time to time, and then a handful of other coaches to help out with the classes and the students.
Right. Now, how do they divide the time up between everyone? Because obviously there's a bunch of high-level guys who have all these, big fights, whether, it's your fight or someone else's fight, and all these guys are so high-level. Everyone needs attention and getting their camp going. So how do they divide the time between everybody so everyone's getting equal amount of coaching with everybody?
Well, they're usually there during the pro practices, and then, after that practice, we might hit, they might hit pads or hold pads for a couple different guys, and then at night, the other guys, and closer to your fight, they're going to spend more time with you.
What led you to Rufus Sport? Obviously, you come from Iowa. That's where you started your career. What led you to Rufus Sport? There's obviously a bunch of great gyms all over this country, but what exactly led you to there?
Well, I had heard about Eric Koch. He was doing real good in the WEC, and I trained at the gym that he was from, Hard Drive in Cedar Rapids, and I actually met Duke at the tryouts for the first season of the Tough Show at 145 and 135 out in Newark it was. So I met him out there. I was like, hey, I should come up, and I talked to him, and he said it was cool to come up, and so I came up, and it was right before my the fight that I had to draw with Ryan Roberts. I came up here for 2 months. I'd go back to Iowa on the weekends, for Saturday and Sunday, and would visit my wife, and then leave. It was like 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and drive up here and make the first practice and stay. I slept in a basement all week and head back to Iowa and just back and forth for a couple months.
I'm just curious, what was your training environment like before you got to Rufus Sport? Like, was it something where when you got to Rufus Sport, it was an eye-opening experience? Like, I thought I knew a lot before I got here, but when I got here, I realized that I don't really know much. Was it one of those kind of deals?
Yeah, definitely. Like the mindset on, Duke has like a Spartan mindset for our training, and like we're going to battle every time we fight. And I thought I was a decent striker, and it was definitely an eye opener to have him pick me apart and pretty much tell me I suck.
Right.
So,
right,
it's an eye opener.
Right. Now, what was it? I mean, obviously, you just said what led you there, but what was the thing that made you stick there? Was it the room? All these great guys in there, or was it the coaching? What exactly, or was it a mixture of both that kept you to keep coming back?
Yeah, I think it was a mixture of both. All the good guys there, and the team's just always growing, and then the coaching is world class.
Right. I see. Now, I'm just curious, how did you get your nickname, the Gladiator?
It's kind of a funny story. I was walking out. I think it was my last amateur fight, actually. So they turned the music on, whatever, and they announced my name, Rick the Gladiator Glenn, and I'm behind the curtain with my uncle. He was, my trainer at the time.
Right.
And he went to the announcer without me knowing it, and telling him, told him to say, hey, announce him as the Gladiator. And he gave me the name just because I was, kind of like the movie The Gladiator. He was, cool and calm in battle, but went after the kill.
Oh, I see. I was just curious about that. Now, I see all these pictures of you online holding a Gladiator's helmet. Is that something that you plan on wearing when you walk out? Is that something that's a part of the deal?
Yep, I'm going to wear that. I'm going to polish it up sometime soon. But yeah, I started wearing that, I think it was like 3 years ago. A couple people mentioned, hey, you should, wear a helmet or something. And it was actually, I think it was my boss that mentioned it, and he actually did pro wrestling, so he knows about all the gimmicks and stuff to get some attention, and I wanted to wear something and kind of help me be known, a little more than just the fighting, and so I come out with the gladiator helmet since I'm the gladiator.
Oh, I see. I was just curious about that because I keep seeing this stuff, and on the prelims that you were fighting on earlier, I hadn't seen the walkouts, so I was just seeing the fights. I was just curious about that. Now you're 2-0 under the World Series of Fighting banner. You made your debut at World Series of Fighting 2, and then you had your second fight at World Series of Fighting 5. I'm just curious, how are they treating you? I've heard nothing but good things about what Ali and Ray and the rest of the guys there are doing, so I'm just curious how they've been treating you and how's the relationship been?
Yeah, it's been going good. Kind of sucks I had to pull out of that fight in December, so I want to fight more often, but I just gotta take care of business for this one and talk to them about staying a little more busier.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you miss Score Fighting Series at all? Because that was a pretty good show. I mean, they went out of business, but they were doing some good things. They had some really good fights, and they had some really good fighters on those cards. Do you miss that organization at all?
Yeah, I miss those guys. It was nice to work with them. They're from Canada, so they're super friendly. It was nice to work with them. It was pretty cool to go up there.
Okay. I'm just curious about that. And now, Score going out of business, is that kind of what led you to World Series of Fighting, or was there something where you weren't really signed with Score and just World Series of Fighting came in? Like, did them going out of business kind of lead you to World Series of Fighting?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it was right before they went out of business. I had a 3-fight deal with them, and they pretty much told me, we don't have anyone for you. Their top guy was it Chris Hordeski?
Right.
He didn't want to fight me, so they're like, you can go and do whatever you want, and you already beat up our top guys that they had, and so they were pretty cool about that.
Mm-hmm. Now, was World Series of Fighting the major player in acquiring your services, or were there other organizations that were looking at you when Score said you can do whatever you want?
We were talking a little bit with RFA at the time. And but World Series, they a little better promotion than them, and could offered more money. So I went with them, and I'm glad I did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I see. Was Bellator, were they a player for you at all?
No, I'm not. I don't think I'd want to go to Bellator. Oh. I'm not sure if I should say that or not, but it seems like there's a lot of drama over there.
Right.
With Bjorn.
Right. Have you been talking to Ben Askren or something?
Well, yeah, he's my good buddy, so
right.
it was kind of weird how, that being in Bellator affected him, his chances of getting in the UFC and moving on once his contract is up. But he's happy with where he's at now, ONE FC.
Right. Well, yeah. I was just curious because, you still are on a great win streak, and before you signed with World Series of Fighting, those are the kind of guys that they want in Bellator, guys who are, on the rise, not real known, but have good records and are finishing guys, and that's what you were doing, so I was just curious about that. Now, coming up on this card, World Series of Fighting 10, the co-main event slot, when was the last time that you've, been in that kind of position, where you're fighting real high up on a card?
It was right before I went to the Score, and then before the Score, or before that, it was I fought co-main event and main event almost a handful of times, and just a regional circuit, the Midwest Cage Championships. Right.
Now, a lot of people talk about the adjustments they have to make to fighting later in the night. A lot of people talk about that, especially on the bigger shows where, live TV and bigger stakes in the fights. Is that something you're going to have to deal with? Is that something that worries you? Is that something to have some concern about, fighting later in the night? Is that going to be something that you have to make an adjustment for?
No, I like fighting later in the night. You know, it gives me more time to put some more weight on and rehydrate and everything from the cut.
I see. And when do you take off for Vegas?
Well, I haven't even got my ticket yet, so hopefully Tuesday or Wednesday.
Oh, I see. And as the training kind of winds down, because, the fight is happening a little bit over a week from now, when's your last hard day of training?
It'll probably be Friday or Saturday.
And is that normal? Is that usually when it happens?
Yeah, I'll go pretty hard, really hard, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Saturday, probably do 5 rounds of hard sparring, safe hard sparring, and then that's about it.
Right. Now, that fight against Ryan Roberts back in 2011, you fought to a draw against him. A lot of people have, mixed opinions on who won that fight and should it have been a draw and should have not been a draw. What do you say? Do you think you won that fight?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, he shot for a couple takedowns total in the fight. I stopped him, and then I was tagging him up most of the round when I could catch him because he just kept running around, and 5 rounds is up. They announced me as the winner. It was a split decision, and then, that's what I thought. And then when we went to the locker room, the commissioners came up to us, and one of the judges must have added it up wrong or something, and turned out being a draw. So.
Now, how much will that experience of going 5 rounds benefit you in this fight? Because obviously, Karkanian is a very durable guy, and usually when guys are finishing guys the way you guys have been, they don't really get finished. That's how they're able to get these finished. So there's a high chance that we might go 5 rounds. I mean, I don't really know if we'll do it, but there's a high chance that it could go 5 rounds. So how much will that Roberts experience help you this time around?
I think it'll help a lot, and knowing that I've done it before, but we're always training, sparring at least 5 rounds. We'll do 10 rounds, and then grappling wise, there's some days I've put in, what was my record? I think 22 rounds straight, 22 5-minute rounds.
Right.
I do.
Just curious, what do you think his camp is telling him to do against you in this fight?
I don't know. Probably just try to stay striking and stick and move or something.
Do you think his camp is telling him maybe to just wait until you make the first mistake? Because that's usually how he's able to catch guys. Is Palmer, he got pretty confident and then wound up in a guillotine. Do you think that's kind of their strategy?
Yeah. Probably be patient. Of course, at the level we're at now, the guy that makes the first mistake is usually the one losing, or it's going to be hard to, recover from it.
Just curious, you seem to know a lot about Karkanian. Obviously, you said that you were scoping him out when he signed with World Series Fighting, and obviously you fought on the same card as he did. How much do you think he knows about you?
Probably more than what I think. Or no.
Right.
I got a lot of my old videos, my fights still on YouTube, and I don't ever take them down because I'm always, I'm getting better. So I hope he's looking at those.
I see. Now, obviously, I'm sure you played this fight in your head 5,000 times over again. How do you see this one ending?
Probably a finish, some type of finish. Late into the fight.
Okay. Rick, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
Yeah, of course. Definitely thanks everyone for all the support. Tune in June 21st, World Series of Fighting at the Hard Rock in Vegas. And definitely got to thank my sponsors, New Blood Fight Gear. They've been a huge support. Whiteout Promotions. What else we got? That's about it.
Rick, thank you for taking...
Everyone.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just saying thanks. Yeah.
Rick, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it. Good luck June 21st at World Series of Fighting 10 against Georgi Karkanyan.
Thank you.